This week's episode was a very, very good one. It left us with a good feeling, a lot of cool stuff happened, but I do have one question. Ironwood, why did you shoot the Borbatusk? Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, Jake of the OneManBand is back again, and welcome to another RWBY Volume 4 episodic review. Now, this is the 6th episode, the midway point, if you will, for RWBY Volume 4, and it is called Tipping Point. Now, it is both a tipping point, both in the appropriate stories, that be it Team Ranger's story and Weiss's story. But we start out with Team Ranger, so let's start to see what happens with them in this episode. We see that Team Ranger has a lot of walking ahead of them, and pretty much that's all. You know, now that I'm really thinking about it, there's a reason why we haven't seen a lot of Ranger in Volume 4, like, up till this point. I mean, they're pretty much walking the whole time. It's not like they're doing big and exciting things every single day. So, I guess that's why we haven't seen a lot of them. We're then reminded of RWBY's still childish way of thinking when she says that it seems to be taking forever in order to get to Mistral. To which Red asks, how long do you think this journey was going to take? She thought it was going to be taking anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Now, it's really strange how RWBY says, oh, this place is a lot farther away than I thought it was going to be. You're just now saying that after you've been on the road from 6 to 8 months? I mean, I know it's sort of like a nod to the audience that, like, yes, getting to Mistral is taking its time, isn't it? But it's still like, you would think that she'd be asking that a lot more on this journey. I mean, now that they are actually on Anima, heading toward Mistral, and they're still not there after 6 to 8 months, it is taking them a very long time to get there. Jeez, I friggin' in Lord of the Rings, they made it to Mordor in like that amount of time, from the Shire. Now, to be fair, RWBY grew up in a very small area, the island of Patch off the coast of nearby Vale. Now, she probably only lived around Vale and Patch, so you would think that she probably hasn't gone out and about in the world all that much, not until she was a huntress. So her not knowing the amount of time it takes to get from point A to point B is kind of justified because she hasn't really traveled across the world. We know that John has traveled to other villages. We know Ren and Nora have. Those are all the 3 members of Team Ranger that she really has with her right now. So the rest of them know, like, how difficult and how long the journey was probably going to be, but RWBY didn't. But you see, this is why I think RWBY is such an amazing character. Because even though she didn't know how long it was going to take, she was still willing to take that step and take the journey anyway. She wasn't going to let the distance or the danger get to her. She still had a mission to do. She had to go find answers, and she went and did it anyway. That's what's awesome about RWBY. Now, as they're walking, they come across the ruins of a destroyed village. But there's something different about this village. It doesn't seem to be in ruins. It seems more unfinished, as if it was under construction and then attacked. And they do something again, which I completely hate. They drop the map again and run into the ruined city. No wonder at the beginning of the series they were so, they were wondering where the map was. Because you constantly keep dropping it! Stop dropping the map! I know a certain little explorer that would be very, very disappointed in you, Team Ranger. Disappointed. And what's worse, they don't even go back for it! Do they just have like an infinite number of maps in their backpack? Oh, we came to another village in danger. Let's drop this map and go on in. I know it's not big and it's a very small thing, but it still gets to me because it's like, that's a vital piece of information. It's like, why don't you just drop all your supplies and your weapons just so you can get there faster? But, like I said, not truly important to the plot, so they go into this ruined village. Now, as I said before, this village doesn't seem to be so much in ruins as to be not finished. Of course, we learn later that there is evidence that the Grimm had been there and had attacked, but a majority of the buildings just seem like panels and walls still needed to be put up. It looked like there wasn't like plumbing or anything along that lines. Like, I didn't see like showers or toilets or refrigerators in the buildings. Then again, those probably would have been picked clean years ago if it fell a while ago, but still, it's like you would think that there would at least be some things left behind if it was a village in ruins. And what's even more strange is that Jean says that this village isn't on the map. Now, I would assume that the maps that they have are very up to date. So if this village had just sprang up in the most recent year, you would think that there would have been like an indication that, oh, this village is here, parentheses, under construction. But we learn that this village isn't new, but it's actually quite old. We learn that the village's name is Oniyuri, and it was essentially Anima's Mountain Glen, if Mountain Glen had never gotten off the ground, as Ren says. Ren takes over talking about this city as if he knows something about it, which of course we learn that he does. The elite of Mistral, they didn't agree with how Mistral was being governed. So they were gonna go off and build their own village and hopefully form another kingdom with it because it would be so powerful. Probably the rich, the famous, the powerful that didn't agree with Mistral's politics, they all left to build the city of Oniyuri, and they were going to make it the best city that there ever was, and it was going to elevate to a kingdom status. And Ren says that even his parents thought so. His parents. So we know so much about Ren now. We know that his parents were part of the elite of Mistral. They left because they didn't agree with how it was being run, and that they were going to build up this new sub-kingdom of Oniyuri to help make a better place. But of course, probably the Grimm came in, bandits came in, and it was just a complete and utter failure. And it probably left with the city in ruins, not even completed, Ren's parents dead, and Ren an orphan. So then he probably went off to an orphanage, somehow met Nora, and then bibbidi bobbidi boop, they were always together, but not together. They decided to become huntsmen, all that fun stuff. Yeah! You know, by the way that this journey is going, with so much development that's being put on Ren, you would think that the two R's in Ranger would be switched. That Ren is in front and RWBY is at the last, because more has been happening with Ren than it has really with RWBY up until this point. But Oniyuri serves as an example that there isn't just failed expansions of kingdoms like Mountain Glen and Vale. There are also ones all over the world that, even though they had all the right resources, they had all this stuff going for them, they still failed, which shows just how dangerous and relentless the world of Remnant is to the humans and Faunus. So let's put the depression on the backseat and let's head up north to Atlas, to where we rejoin Weiss, and she's actually at her charity concert. Now, I was a bit disappointed that we didn't get really any more development with Weiss from between where we left her off to the concert, but I guess we needed Blake and Yang development, so, you know, Weiss just kind of had to be, you know, brushed to the side until this came up. But I am still glad that it did come up. She's singing a song pretty much saying that she wants to be free. She wants to break free of her father's influence, and I want to do a breakdown of the lyrics, but that would just like add literally a half hour more onto this review. So maybe I'll do it in a separate one. Maybe once the full song itself comes out, I'll break it down, but no promises. So although the animation at the concert is a little bit wonky with the lip syncing, and I understand that the voice actress for Weiss, Kara, and the head vocalist, Casey Lee Williams, they do sound similar in some senses, but it's still strange. Like, when you look at Weiss and you hear Casey Lee Williams' voice coming out of her, you're just like, that's not really Weiss's voice. I don't know. It's just me. I still enjoy the concept that Weiss is able to sing and has this amazing voice, but it's still just weird to me. So I do accept it, and I still enjoy that this concert happened, and I think that it's amazing. I wish we could have seen more, though, of the actual concert, not just like the ending part of the ending song. What I do wish we didn't have more of is when we look up and we see Papa Schnee and Whitley sitting in the box seat. They have the worst shit-eating grins. Those son of a bitches have the worst shit-eating grins I have ever seen. God, I hate them so much just because of those grins. Just by the way they were looking at Weiss. It was just creepy, weird. It was just, I didn't like it. Friggin' stop looking at my favorite character like that. She's way better than you guys. Now, the concert scene ends, and we pretty much have the after rap party, where, you know, we have the high and elite of Atlas at this party, you know, having drinks and probably those, like, fine hors d'oeuvres with, like, the cheese on the toothpicks, you know, stuff like that. We see that Papa Schnee is talking to some other businessmen. Papa Schnee actually says that he doesn't see the problem, why the Faunus are so mad at the Schnee Dust Company. He claims that he gives the Faunus workers an equal amount of pay, he claims to give fair wages to the Faunus workers, the same wages that he gives everyone else. But of course, he could be lying. There could be some underhanded stuff going on where even though they get the same wage, maybe they're taxed more, maybe they don't get benefits like humans do. We don't know the full prospect of the Schnee Dust Company and how they treat their Faunus workers. All we have is this information and the information that Blake gave us in episode 1. Volume 1, Episode 2, where she pretty much talks about how the Schnee Dust Company almost has a slave force of Faunus. From some background talking with Papa Schnee and his business associate, it seems that there's some economic turmoil going on between Atlas and the rest of the world, which would make sense because of the trade embargo that Ironwood has placed on the Schnee Dust Company. We also learn that in a search for jobs and employment, Faunus came to Atlas to be hired on by the Schnee Dust Company because they needed a job. They needed a way to support their families and to live. So the whole fact that they're treated as a slave force, once again, we're only hearing one side of the story, and it isn't until we actually see the quarries that we can draw our own conclusion. But when a person is looking for a job, they're going to take whatever job they can in order to sustain their family. Now, if a Faunus has to go through hard labor in mines for the Schnee Dust Company in order to make money to support his family, he's going to do it. Now, one of the biggest things that's going on at this party is that Whitley and Weiss are staying right next to their father. Now, Weiss wishes to go off on her own, but you see, Papa Schnee, he flat out grabs her and is like, where are you going? No, stay by my side. He's using her as a symbol, as sort of like, oh yes, this is my daughter who was at Vale, who went through all that stuff. See how she's next to me and we're still so buddy-buddy? That's all he's doing. He's just using her to further his image. We already know that Papa Schnee's a piece of shit. We already know that Whitley, he's got that shit-eating grin. He's a piece of shit. And Winter is okay, but she's not in this episode. Weiss is amazing. It's just the rest of their family are pieces of shit. After a small argument with her father, Weiss is able to go off on her own, but doesn't really go far. She's just looking at this beautifully painted picture of the tower at Beacon. it's Beacon Academy with the tower in the background, and it's beautiful. And she's probably reminiscing about her time at Beacon, her time in Vale, when she was happy, when she had a team, when she was, she had friends that cared about her for her and not for her money, or weren't trying to just use her to further their image or to gain something. They were just genuine friends. And then this asshole comes over and he starts hitting on Weiss, this Henry Marigold character. Now, in my opinion, he seems to be almost like a combination of Neptune and Jean. I mean, his outfit and overall design is very, very Neptune, but at least at the beginning, his actions and the way that he talks is very reminiscent of Jean. But of course, we later figure out he's a piece of shit and all that, but he's still kind of that mixture, at least to me. But he's hitting on Weiss, and he's just like, oh yeah, I come to these things for the drinks and the food. I don't really come here to aid a fundraiser. You see, this is a fundraiser concert, and this is a fundraiser party. Now they're raising money, we learn, to aid Vale. The pictures and the pieces of art that Weiss is looking at are up for auction, and all the proceeds are going to go to help the people of Vale. Now, Henry Marigold, he makes a suggestion or a comment that he's like, so what is this fundraiser for? Are we helping out Mantle again? And this once again brings up the whole how Mantle was once this great kingdom, but is now overshadowed by Atlas and is pretty much just a shell of itself. It's probably very third world, very slummy, and they probably need a lot of financial aid from the high and mighty people in Atlas. Now, he says it in a way as in he looks down on Mantle. I think a majority of the people who live in Atlas see Mantle as lessers, if you will. Because all these assholes at the party, they're all high and mighty, hoity-toity people. One of the great things about this episode I'm going to get to later, but it's how Weiss confronts these people. But I'm going to talk about that later. Now, when Weiss learns that this guy isn't even here to help the cause, he's just here to just, do whatever he wants and, hit on the cute girls, she just flat out tells him to get out. Get out of my fundraiser, you son bitch. Which I would too. It's like, we've come together to help these people and you're not even have the idea to help them. You're not even, you came to this party without even knowing what it was about. That's just an insult to the people who are throwing the party and an insult to the reason the party is being held. So Weiss flat out tells him to get out. And this guy, this Henry Marigold, he was an asshole character because, he's hitting on Weiss in this, flirtatious way, which isn't altogether bad, but he comes to this party without even knowing what it's for. And this is, the way he's hitting on her kind of just reminds me. And it reminded my girlfriend too. She actually brought this up to me that it's very reminiscent on how Weiss stated that all the boys, before Vale, were always trying to get to her because of her name and her rank. They wanted, to get in close to her because she was the daughter of Jacques Schnee, the leader of the Schnee Dust Company. And she was, her father was powerful and her name was Power. So that's the only reason they wanted to get close to her. This guy sounds very much like that. That is what he was trying to do. So it's in this moment that we truly learn that the Atlesian high hoity-toity, the upper echelon of people, they only look out for themselves and they only truly care for themselves. They don't care about the woes of the rest of the world. They don't care that other people are suffering out there. They only care about themselves and if they're going to be comfortable. We see a businessman get mad at a waiter because a drink isn't quite right. When that waiter's just trying to do his job, he's trying to feed his family, and you're just gonna get mad at him because you didn't pick the right drink or the drink wasn't stirred properly or whatever. That's just an asshole thing to do. But then shit really hits the fan when Weiss overhears just some woman talking about how she believes Vale got what they deserved. Yeah. went there. She talks about Vale as being arrogant to think that they can get by without proper kingdom defense. Now the real question is, lady, do you even know what proper kingdom defense is? Do you even have an iota of brain in that big old head of yours? Probably not. And you see, this instant right here is just a stark contrast to what was previously shown. It previously showed the picture of Beacon and then the plaque of the fundraiser that said, "Show the world we care," a fundraiser for the people of Vale. When, how can these people, they don't care? How can they show the world that they care when they really don't? It's a stark contrast, and it just shows how hoity-toity and how corrupt and self-centered the upper echelon of Atlesians are. Now, Weiss, of course, takes great offense to this and just tells this woman to pretty much just shut up. She doesn't know what she's talking about, and she pretty much just causes a complete uproar in the party. Papa Schnee comes over and is just like, "Weiss, calm down, you're embarrassing the family," when it's like, bitch, did you just hear what she was saying? She was insulting people who died. She was saying that the people who died deserved it. They deserved to be ripped apart by Beowulfs. They deserved to be sliced in half by an Ursa. They deserved to have their young people at their school academy be ripped to shreds by White Fang members. Yeah, they totally deserve that. Now, when Weiss argues with her father, her emotions get the best of her, and she is actually able to successfully summon one of her monsters. Now, we know that Weiss has had trouble with summoning in the past, but in the 6 to 8 month period, she may have been practicing. Beforehand, she was barely even able to summon anything, but now she was able to summon a full Borbatusk to her bidding. Of course, she couldn't control the Borbatusk or even control the summoning. Her emotions just got the better of her, and it happened. Winter herself stated that emotions can grant you power, but if you can't control them, they can become a hindrance and an obstacle to overcome. So this Borbatusk is summoned, and it charges this woman. And I was totally ready for this girl to just completely get it, freaking die. I was just sitting back, waiting for it to happen. I was like, yep, this is happening. And I'm allowing it to happen. I'm happy. But we see that Ironwood was there at the party, and he shoots down the Borbatusk, saving the bitch woman. The woman then proceeds to call for Weiss to be arrested because of what she did. But Ironwood pulls a complete badass out and just says that she was the only one talking sense out of everyone. And then he struts out of the party like a pimp. To all those people who still don't like Ironwood, how can you not like Ironwood? He's saying all the right things. Him and Weiss are the only people of the upper echelon of Atlesians that actually care for other people. And this is what I was talking about before. A lot of people seem to think of Weiss as this rich, spoiled, hoity-toity member of society, and they don't like her for that, when she's actually almost the exact opposite. Does she come from a rich family? Yes. Does she use the money that her family has? She did, up until the point where her father cut her off, but even then she didn't go around flaunting that she had money or flaunting that she was some esteemed family. She was trying to gain honor for herself first and then her family. She wanted to show the world that she was herself. She wasn't just one of her daddy's playthings or one of her daddy's toys or something to use. She was Weiss Schnee, and she was willing to become a huntress to protect the innocent and the people of the smallest, most poverty-rest natures. She was willing to do all that. It just saddens me when people call her a hoity-toity brat when she's not. She was kind of back in Volume 1, but she's made such big strides, being, one of the best characters now in RWBY. And especially now in Volume 4, where she flat out you know, tells all these people to just be like, you know, you guys shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's just great that she finally, this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. She's able to stand up for herself, just like how she always sings about in her songs. And I think the next step for Weiss is finally getting away from her father and all that. But of course, what's gonna happen to her now that she's completely ruined the party and embarrassed her father? How is her father going to discipline her? How is her father going to punish her? And that's the scariest part of this episode, not knowing what is going to happen to Weiss. I'm hoping she's going to go to Atlas Academy soon and pretty much go under Ironwood's wing and pretty much, you know, be protected by him. That's what I'm hoping for. After the party, we then transition back to Team Ranger, and that's where we're going to end this episode, is with Team Ranger. So I was automatically happy for this episode because we had Team Ranger and we had Weiss, which I was just so happy for because they're the ones that I wanted to see be in this episode because, you know, they've kind of been out of the loop for a while, the past like 2-3 episodes. So I was just like, yes, yay! Now Team Ranger is just about to exit Oniyuri and Ren stops them. He senses something. Now, it may just be that Ren is a very observant person, so he has like enhanced hearing, and he's able to hear the chuckling Tyrion, but it almost seems like he has a form of spidey sense, because he's like, hey, danger's nearby, something's going on, so maybe he has a danger radar. And no, I don't think that's his semblance, but I do think that he's very privy to danger and he knows when it's coming. And we can actually see that it's taken a little bit of time for Team Ranger to get through this city. So it was a sizable village, but you know, once again, it wasn't complete. It was attacked, destroyed, abandoned, but it was still pretty big. So it's taken them a little bit of time to get through. Now Tyrion enters into this area to battle Team Ranger like a complete badass. He just like comes in, doesn't care that they might attack him or do anything along those lines. He just comes in and is ready for the attack. Now, what's important is that he goes directly for RWBY. Even though there's 3 other people pretty much in between him and RWBY, he goes for her first. He doesn't strategize. He doesn't like, okay, well, I'll take these guys out first, and then it'll just be me and her. He's going to go after her to inflict the most pain and the most damage to. After a bit of fighting and Team Ranger pretty much getting beaten down, they get to talk to Tyrion a little bit. And he talks about how none of them truly interest him. Well, except for RWBY, of course, but there's one other that interests him, and that's Jean. Now, why exactly does Jean interest him? Is it because of his fighting style? Is it because maybe of his armor? Does he maybe know who Jean is? Or maybe does he sense that Jean's semblance hasn't been unlocked? I mean, maybe it was just like some sort of like, I'm interested in you, just to creep Jean out. Maybe it was just as simple as that, but I would like to think that there was something else there. Something just to make it a little more sinister. I mean, that would be really cool to see. You know, why is he interested in Jean? But that's not truly important right now. And essentially, we can't truly figure out why, because why should one try to understand a madman? If you try to understand a madman, you're gonna go mad yourself. So as the fight continues, we see that Team Ranger is completely outmatched. RWBY, nobody is really able to get any hits in on this guy. He just tears Team Ranger apart, and this shows just how dangerous the other combatants of Remnant are to Team Ranger and for the rest of our heroines. Remember, they were students. They were still first-year students when Beacon fell. They still had 3 years of training to go through. These people like Tyrion, they have been fighting for who knows how long, and they're just too skilled for these kids to go up against. Of course, the only thing that Team Ranger has going for them is sheer numbers. Now, it's 4 versus 1, but Tyrion seems to not mind so much. He's able to flip around, do damage, and dodge attacks all fluidly. He is very much a dancer in his fighting style. But RWBY tries to hit him with a electrified dust round, but of course it misses and hits Nora, which of course we know that just powers her up. So she has more power to hit Tyrion with, but Tyrion doesn't know that. So at first he's very confident. So Nora is charged up by this electrified dust shot and goes in for the kill. But once the dust settles, we see that Tyrion had another trick up his sleeve. He full on blocked Nora's empowered hammer smash with his tail. His scorpion tail. Upon seeing this, Team Ranger makes some assumptions that maybe he's from the White Fang. I mean, he's Esfanis, and the White Fang was at the Battle of Beacon, and so they proceed to ask him, is this about the White Fang? Is it about Roman Torchwick? Because the guy's dead. And he's like, no. Those guys don't even matter. They're pawns. They're plastic soldiers. They're toys. They're playthings. They're not important. He states that his body and soul only belongs to his goddess. And of course, Team Ranger makes the assumption, Cinder? No, you are so wrong, Team Ranger. It's not Cinder, it's Salem. We know it's Salem, but they don't. It's strange that Tyrion refers to Salem as a goddess. So, does it have a hint of truth in it? Is Salem some form of divine entity? Is she some form of goddess? Or is she just so powerful and elevated herself so high that she's referred to one by the Mad Tyrion? We do not know. We know that Salem has power over the Grim, power over a great many things, but to go so far as to call her a god may be a bit of a stretch. But we'll just have to wait and see. Once again, the fighting starts and it's going poorly for Team Ranger. They're just getting hit and hit and hit, broken down, until Tyrion finally has RWBY ready to attack. He's ready to take her out, ready to take her away. He's going to sting her with his stinger. But you see, when he goes in to sting her, his eyes actually change color. They go from being gold to purple. What I think? He was ready to inject poison into RWBY. He has a scorpion tail. Why can't he have poison? Maybe it's some sort of paralyzing substance that he would prick RWBY with. She would become paralyzed. That way he could just sling her over his shoulder and run off and just be gone. It would make a lot of sense, but this is another instance where somebody's eyes have changed color. Of course, there's Yang, her eyes change color, so now we know that it isn't just a special trait to her. And of course, Neo's eyes also change color. And when Tyrion goes in to sting, we see that Crow finally makes his entrance, blocks the strike, and tells RWBY, hey kiddo. Now, what I think is so amazing about this shot is that Crow purposefully turns around, blocks Tyrion's strike with his sword with his back turned to Tyrion, so he's facing RWBY. He wanted RWBY, when she looked up, to see her uncle there. To make sure that she knew that everything was gonna be all right. He wanted to be sure that he was the first thing that she saw. That way she would be in a state of like, okay, everything's gonna be okay. Uncle Crow's here to protect us. He's gonna make everything great. And I just think that was really, really cool how it did there. And another thing to take note of is when Crow was running into the battle, at first he was in his crow form, and then when he passed a barrel, he was back to human form. So the fact and the possibility of his semblance, him being able to turn into a crow, once again is up on the table. That seems to be his semblance, or at least a power that he contains. I mean, cause that power has just like been my bane for the longest time, because it's like, is it true? Is it not true? What's going on? I don't know. But that's how the episode ends, and God, this was a good episode. We got Team Ranger, we got Weiss, we got development, we got to have the fight with Tyrion. Finally, we got to see how good Tyrion was in the realm of fighting and totally whooping ass, and we got to have our favorite crow come to the rescue for our favorite heroine. Now, the real question is, how long is it going to be until episode 7? With the holidays coming up. It's gonna be a sad, sad holiday. But still Christmas! Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, thanks for watching the review. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like and favorite if you did. And hey, subscribe if you feel inclined to, if you want to hear more stuff from me, and if you want to be kept up on top with all the videos that I'm putting out. And there's going to be some links down in the description taking you to other videos, taking you to social media sites that I'm on, and my Patreon page if you want to support me that way. Big thanks to all my Patreon sponsors. You guys are awesome. And big thanks to my girlfriend, Erin Wells, for helping me get information for this review and helped me figure some things out. I mean, she was the only reason. She brought up the whole Tyrion eye-changing thing, so big thanks to her. So, until next time, everybody, I want you to tip your waitresses, keep moving forward, and I'll see you next time I'm out there in YouTube land. I'll see you then. Yeah!